Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's a Saturday, so that means we have another episode of Series 10. And after the Lie of... I do want to take a quick moment to say, after watching The Lie of the Land again, I think it's almost actually... That's might just be the weakest part of the trilogy, of the Extremis trilogy. It really went down my opinion. But what's glad to say is that this week, Empress of Mars, written by Mark Gatiss, an author who is a very hit or miss for me. Some of his stories are pretty good, some of his aren't. I really like Nightshade as a book, and his his arch nemesis, acclaimed pantomime actor Sam Kisgart, is an excellent version of the Master. But Mark himself, and Mark is a decent actor, especially in Sherlock, and I would actually love to see him play the Doctor. It'd actually be a pretty interesting portrayal, I think. But he just got a sort of. I just have some problems with the way that he acts. So, I mean, the way that he writes. So, Empress of Mars, I really Mark Gatiss goes in with a really, really good opens up with a very, very good style. He's sort of doing he I guess you could call it steampunk, but it's very much taking the what if the Victorians got into space, and it's sort of like that old pulp sci-fi novel. Like, people throw around the word like Jules Verne. It reminds me very much of the style reminds me a lot of the style of, I mean, H.G. Wells and Jules Verne, just these old this is what the future is going to be like. Let's explore and, expand the British Empire. So this one sees essentially. What's interesting is that a lot of exposition that's told to the audience, which could have probably been shown if there was more time for the episode. Again, this episode does, like a lot of episodes, it probably would have been great had it been a bit longer and had a bit more time. I don't think this would have benefited from being a two-parter. Maybe 15 minutes, a little bit, maybe to get a little bit more into the characters. Um, maybe 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 not have the weird God save the Queen thing, but yeah, it could have been pretty good. I really like the style of this episode, and Wayne Yip does a really good job at directing. I'm glad he moved over from Class to Doctor Who, where he seems to be a bit more. He actually gets to direct something that's good, especially this week, which is actually pretty good. It's definitely this isn't going to be the strongest of Series 10 overall, because you've already had quite a few strong stuff, and I don't think anything will really beat Oxygen, because Oxygen was just excellent. Oxygen was really, really, really good. But Empress of Mars is definitely a contender for definitely one of the really good episodes of this series, because it's definitely above average. You have, well, essentially, the first half of the plot is, well, basically, you have the Victorians given technology by a nice warrior who was on Earth just to repair the ship, so they go to Mars, into the caves of Mars, where there's oxygen traps, so they can breathe. Which, not very good science, but I'll take it, because Lords of the Red Planet. Also, why isn't Lords of the Red? If you haven't listened to Lords of the Red Planet, go do it. It's an excellent story. I can't wait to get to it in my marathon. And yes, I'm including that one in my marathon because it's just amazing. But yeah, that is essentially you have all these Victorians, and basically sort of the origin story of how the Ice Warriors got into the Federation. That's really what it sort of leads up to. That basically the Ice Warriors are awakened on Mars, um, slowly but surely. They get into a fight with the British. The Doctor saves everything. The Colonel, who is a deserter of the British Army, but somehow got into power, which is a bit weird, but also actually a pretty compelling character. Um, and the Doctor sends a message to the Federation. A random cameo from Alpha Centauri, aka the hermaphrodite hexapod in a shower curtain, because of course we have seriously Alpha Centauri returning. It's fanwag, but it's a really, really good. It's a really good way of doing the fanfic. You have the fanfic there, but you also have enough explanation for the casual reader to be like, "Hey, this is the Galactic Federation. We are basically peace." And I mean, of course, it's just an interesting. It's a good way of doing it just sort of a new person in the audience to Doctor Who really doesn't get a thing. There are definitely some problems. Missy is in the episode, and it's just teasing like Missy's become good. Bull, she hasn't become good. She's the master. Go listen to the audio drama Master if you want to know who the master is, really. I mean, It's not, or even just watch anything in the classic series with the Master, except maybe Time Flight or Mark of the Rani. Basically anything with Pertwee in the Master or Tom Baker in the Master, and you'll get a good sense of who the Master is supposed to be. Which is very much he's very much evil, evil person. So yeah, that is an excellent way of getting the story going. I quite like. I really actually quite liked the Empress herself. Very much reminds me of course, Lords of the Red Planet. There wasn't any sneaky references that I caught to it, just that I like the design. I like how it's very much similar to the design of an Ice Lord. I also kind of like how it's unlike the Silurian redesign for the females, which makes them look more mammalian. You still sort of have the bulky armor to make it look a bit more, a bit less, just a bit more alien, I guess. Because they're even though the females, they would still be in a very very bulky armor. You know, I also quite like that. It's not quite a callback to Lords of the Red Planet, but that Bill is given like, I want your opinion because you're a female. Because if you know Lords of the Red Planet, the way it ends, it has the two one of the ladies in charge. Can't remember which one because it's been a while since I've listened to it. But still, it's just a good way of, I think, doing this episode. So we have, just sort of the Ice Warriors in a very, very, very good position as villains, and I can't wait to see if I this is definitely a step up above Cold War because you have the Ice Warriors. I love the way they use the sonic weapons, like how it they sort of do the old classic 60s effect with the weird distortion of the screen, but like that's the form that the humans are left in when they're shot, that's a really really good way of doing it. I like that way of doing it much better than the old classic way, which is cool because technology has developed into a place where that sort of thing is possible. A couple complaints. So I had complaints about Missy. Nardole, he gets one scene at the beginning, then he's disappeared. The scene at the beginning is okay. I feel like Mark Gatiss probably wrote this before Nardole was cast. I think this was one of the earlier ones in production, so that would make sense. But yeah, that's a very very interesting sort of way to get Nardole out of the story totally and completely, which is kind of weird. I also say Murray Gold actually seems to tone down his score quite a bit for this one, which is really good because Murray Gold has this habit of having the score really really high. I love the set design on Mars, and the direction again was good. The opening bit at NASA was a bit cheesy, and the ending was a bit too cheesy for my liking. But very much the episode in the middle, in between the opening and the closing, is really what gets the episode into a pretty good standing, and a really good standing in my book as a good, solid episode of the show, because we need good episodes of the show. The show needs to be good. This is turning out to be probably one of the stronger seasons. Like, I could easily see myself watching a lot of these episodes from Series 10 just a second time on my own. I kind of even want to buy the DVD just to have it, because it's been a pretty good season outside of really Lie of the Land and Pyramid at the End of the World, which were both bad. I mean, but yeah, so I think I'll have to give. I don't want to give the Empress of Mars an 8 out of 10, but it's not quite 7 out of 10. So I tend to give it a 7.5 out of 10 because it is really good, and I definitely recommend you watch this week, because this week has been I think this is a story deserving of an Ice Warrior story title, because it's probably one of the weaker ones, but it's still definitely worth it when compared to Ice Warriors and Seeds of Death and the two Peladon stories. Yeah, that being said, next week should be interesting because it's The Eaters of Light, and it's written by Rona Munro. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, that's really all I have to say about this one. It's just a genuinely good story, solid entry into Series 10.